Hi guys, it's Azar here from Rebel Recruiters. I'm joined by Nigel King, sporting a rather dashing COVID-19 beard, I can see. Nigel and I, we shared a talk previously about his experience working in Silicon Valley and the contrasting cultures of Silicon Valley and the UK tech scene. Today we're going to be talking about a pretty meaty topic, which is the future of applications development and specifically the low-code movement. So Nigel, welcome.
Thank you very much, Azar. Thank you for the compliments on the beard. COVID-19 beard, we should trademark that for sure, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Nigel, can we just start by talking about your own background in applications development?
Sure. I suppose when I first entered the workplace, it was really about the same time that PCs really entered the workplace, and they didn't really know what to do with me when I first joined Philips. So I was like sat down with the like PCs and worked out like how Lotus 1-2-3 worked, and ended up creating some pretty inappropriate applications in Lotus macros back in the day. So worked my way through like debasing Clipper to build out applications. Once Philips had worked out that I had a little bit of an interest in system development, they sort of moved me into more formal projects in system development. So I got to work on like IBM mainframes. And when I first joined my first software company, we were supporting JD Edwards back in the day. That was built on like IBM's like System 38 AS400s, and also was built from a case tool, which is a theme that I'll come back to a few times here. Where I then went in and joined Oracle. I pulled in as an architect, so that's what I did when I first got there. So even though the developers were kind of working in forms and reports and so forth, you had to give them like here's the sort of technical specification that we would like you to build. So that was really like, this is what the data is that you're going to be looking at. This is how the UI should work. And I suppose even in the more modern tools that they've got, even though there's a much broader representation of application behavior that's in the more modern tools like JDeveloper, it's still really addressing obviously like the developer. I'd always found myself very comfortable in the case tools, especially in the sort of uppercase tools that spoke more to the sort of architectural deliverables, not so much in the lowercase tools that really sort of talk to more of the engineering deliverables. Of course, those lowercase tools, the actual engineers wouldn't go anywhere near them because they kind of felt that that was taking away some of their own sort of creativity and kind of latitude, and certainly that as soon as you break that link, then the utility of the uppercase tools becomes much less. And certainly as I moved more to sort of agile development methodologies, that people are much more interested in things that can be reviewed with stakeholders. So they're not as interested in like investing in the kind of specificity that case tools would really require. I mean, now that we're at a sort of agile world, I suppose we've now got sort of many different camps in sort of systems engineering. We've got like front end developers, we've got middle tier, we've got back end, and I find that a little bit exhausting myself. So like low code is a way for me to kind of bridge between those worlds. So that's what's kind of brought me to at least look at low code tools as a way to develop applications.
Excellent. Well, you mentioned low code there, so could you just give us an introduction to what low code actually means?
Sure. The hint is in the name, really. So it's a way of creating applications. I mean, I know it within the context of business applications development, of creating applications with less code. I know that like Oracle's tool set, which I'm most familiar with, claims about 90% less code. You can just take a couple of artifacts that might embed your design, like pull them in and see what it creates. I'm sort of most familiar with Oracle's toolset. I've also played around with the Salesforce toolset Force.com, both seem to have sort of very comparable functionality, and present applications with all the modern standards and UI conventions from very little code being written.
So do you have an example of perhaps something that you've made using low code?
Oh, yes, certainly. Thank you for the opportunity to show something. So let me just share my screen for a second, and let's take you to. I've done a lot of work in the governance, risk, and compliance area, and this is an example application that I got some requirements in and sort of sketched out an application for the risk analysis process. So going from identifying risks and then working out what your risk treatments are for those risks to make sure that your total exposure is kind of within the risk appetite of the enterprise. So it's allowed me to, again, with very little code, sort of show some badges, show some gauges, show some graphs. There's some sort of non-standard graphical things. So like risk people tend to think in terms of heat maps. So sort of to represent something in a heat map has been kind of useful. To represent something in some risk treatments to kind of show the flow of what the recommendations are, and then how well you're actually managing to implement those recommendations. And from very little information being set up, really, we've got some risk treatment recommendations and some risk factors here. We go through the process of scoring some risks and then working out what the risk treatments are. It's kind of interesting to experiment with folks when I'm trying to work out how well I can get the concept of the application across. Like, if you've got a mixed audience with people from different like departments and skills, you might have difficulty in getting them to agree on like an absolute level of impact, but you can kind of get them to say, oh, reputationally this will absolutely kill us, or from a financial risk this is kind of medium, from a competitive risk this is kind of low, and just an easier way to get that kind of consensus from a group of people. And of course we sort of put this together from actually very little in the way of information. So we have some tables here that have got like risk levels in them and risk scores in them. This is the core of the data that we kind of pulled across with a real sketch of what that data might actually look like. So we can kind of see what the data might be defined as. We can even pull data in from spreadsheets, so you can kind of see what that data might be. And I think one of the remarkable things about these low code environments is, I don't know if you can see this little button here, but this will create me an app. So it's got a picture of what the data might be. Go and sketch me what the application might actually look like. So that was the core of what we did to actually build that application. Certainly we had to do some things that were a little bit more complex at the back end. So we're in an Oracle environment. So we've got everything that we need within our SQL workshop to work out more complex stuff if we actually need to. And certainly the page designer at the page designer at the front end gives me plenty of latitude to change the behavior at the front end. But we shouldn't take away from the fact that what it gave me as a default application was a working app. It was certainly much more than just scaffolding.
No, absolutely, and I can see the benefits just through that very short demo that you did there. But who would you say benefits most from low-code development?
I think one of the things that really excites me about this kind of technology is I think it's a very democratizing force that there must be plenty of people out there that have got like amazing ideas for what an application should do. Like they've got an amazing idea for an application, but to get yourself skilled as a software engineer, that's really expensive in terms of both time and money. And you've got to have interest in that area to to hire those people, again, you got to get funds together and find those people. They'll probably be talking to you to go and find those engineers. To have access to a low-code development methodology just means you've got a shorter distance between having an idea and having something you can demonstrate as an embodiment of that idea.
It's the title of the talk was the future of applications development. So do you really see this as the way we're going to start to see software development move?
I think it's just the fact that it's not just the speed at which you can get an expression of the idea. There's all of the software development learning that happens in large software houses like Oracle is now embedded in that tool set. So many of the methodologies you don't have to be aware of because it's kind of inbuilt into the platform. It's not very different than if you're building cars, right? I mean, I was fortunate enough to go and see the Morgan factory for my father's 80th birthday. We went down and visited the Morgan factory, and it's kind of fascinating to see people build, car frames from wood and with hand tools and so forth. But there's a limit to how many of them you can build, and your quality control on them has to be absolutely huge because the possibilities to build incorrectly are obviously enormous if you move away from any sort of automation. So I really do think it's just the way that automation will move into software in the same way that it's moved into many other areas of manufacturing.
Now, obviously, in your day job, you are a lecturer at Nottingham Trent University. Is this something that you're introducing to a lot of your students?
Oh, for sure. So I teach systems analysis and design, and so part of what we do in systems analysis and design is we identify a problem and we make sure that we can create the specification and we can deliver a working application. And I have a spectrum of abilities at both ends of that problem, in the analysis end as well as at the sort of build end of that problem. So the fact that I can take people that have got great design and architectural skills and allow them to produce very good applications without having maybe such deep capabilities in the engineering area, I think it just meant that I can make more of my students successful.
So if I'm an entrepreneur or a business that maybe has an idea for a project and I want some help, is that something that you and your students could assist with?
Oh, we are always looking for interesting problems that we can assist with. It's great for my students to know that the problems that they're working through are real world problems, and it just means that they can talk to real end customers that have got real world use cases that they're actually solving. I think it makes our teaching much more relevant, and we would love to be talking to as many real world end customers as we can.
Brilliant, Nigel. I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Azar.
So there you have it. The future of application development may well rest in the low-code movement.